Thank you, Mary.
Good.
All right, so just a quick note to everybody, we are meeting pursuant to the Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021 remotely via Zoom. The agenda was posted on the town's website. Everybody should be courteous and mute when not speaking, and take care not to share the screen on your computer. Let's see. That's probably enough.
Thank you, Mary.
Okay. Let's call the meeting to order then. I'll bring up right now, when I was trying to get this set up, they told me that it was not that important that we record, but it was important to keep minutes. So with that, I will move on. We have a quorum, Lee?
Yes,
Okay, good.
typically one more than half of the membership. Unlike Saperstein's Rules of Order, which is one more than half the people present.
Okay. Election of officers. We need a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary.
Do you want to take those one at a time?
Sure.
All right, I'll nominate Henry for chair.
Okay. Second.
Lee,
Okay, all in favor?
And we should do a roll call vote, Henry.
Oh, all right.
yeah, it's an official meeting.
Okay. Who wants to start?
You call them, Henry. You've got them on your top of your screen.
Okay. Me? All right. Mary?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Mary Ann?
Yes.
Okay. Mickey?
Aye.
All right. Liz?
Aye.
And Allison?
Aye.
Okay.
Congratulations, Henry.
Oh, thanks. All right. Vice Chair. Could I have a nomination?
I'd like to nominate Mary.
I don't think it'll fit on my business card. Too many other titles. But if you insist.
I insist.
Well, you'll have
All
to
right.
find a second.
I'll second it.
Oh, thanks, Henry. Now I know who my friends are.
All right. I vote yes. Mary?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Mary Ann?
Aye.
Mickey?
Aye.
Allison?
Aye.
Liz?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous.
Lee, may
Okay,
we nominate you for secretary.
Sorry, who spoke and what did you say?
This is Mary. I said, may we nominate you for secretary?
Yes, you may.
All right.
I'll second. Okay. I vote yes. Mary,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Mary Ann,
Aye.
Mickey,
Aye.
Allison,
Aye.
and Liz.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Good. Well, that went quick. All right, let's move on to the discussion of the area plans and the 9 components of the master plan. I know some of you have worked on other small area plans, and hopefully we can get some good input. We drew up a preliminary plan which was changed. I think we probably need to change that introduction. So I think when we drew that up, we still had the commercial district and waterfront.
So Henry, is this a document that you've shared with people?
It's the one that we drew up like 2 years ago and sent in for approval.
Right,
10
so-
March 2020.
So,
Yeah.
Draft statement of goals and policies. And
Right.
Henry, now that we're actually assembled and commissioned, I think it's important to keep this in mind, but I think it's also important to realize that it will be written last. Once we get the 7 sections that have the substance to them.
Okay.
so I
So
wanted,
you,
I'm sorry, I wanted to ask, has that document been shared with all the members of the committee?
not the new members. That's the one that we sent in 2 years ago to Andrew and company.
Right, so it's difficult to discuss how to modify it if some people haven't seen it.
True, but well, with what changes have been made, do we just scrap it? I mean, our original area has shrunk so much. There's no waterfront, there's no commercial district.
Henry, when it was suggested to us by the director of planning that they would carve out downtown and waterfront, I said, but Andrew, they are integral to our planning. So let us work with those elements in our thinking. And when we send you a draft, you may want to pick up on it. You may want to delete it from our draft. But I think our early discussions need to include the downtown and the waterfront. Otherwise, we're going to create a Frankenstein's monster because it won't have a heart.
Lee, I'm not sure that that is the appropriate approach. I understand your sentiment. But I'm not sure that we can, it would be like Sconset saying, well, Tom Nevers is not in our boundary, but it's on the way here, so let's include them. I don't think it's within our purview to do that.
I hear you, Mary. And yet, if you look at the notes that were provided by Andrew sometime earlier this year, he asks, and how does your area, let me, this is something else I obviously have to send around. It may be under circulation, it may be.
Lee, did you say a draft dated March 9th of 2020?
That was our goals and policies.
Yeah. So I've found that document.
There we go. It's under economic development. How does this area connect and integrate with the commercial uses along the edges of the in-town area, including the commercial downtown district, et cetera? I think it's appropriate for us to talk about it. And if when we come to write something, a final something, we can put it in parentheses, we can put it in a deletable paragraph, but the Nantucket town cannot discuss planning without including the downtown. Otherwise, our statements on circulation, our statements on cultural become carved out. They become substantially diminished.
So would you like me to share the screen and put that draft statement of goals and policies on the screen?
Not really,
Okay.
because as pointed out, it's a good starting point when we come to rewrite it, but I don't think we should rewrite it now.
Okay.
As a resident in the area, I do feel like they're separate, but they're impactful to each other. And there's valid communication that needs to happen. How does that happen so that they're aligned and there's some sort of, there's not an inequity, that there's balance there.
Right. Thank
Hopefully.
you, Liz.
And
Um,
just to ask a quick question, has everybody seen the final approved map of the area that we are considering? So I know that terms like downtown are rather vague. I want to make sure that everybody knows what's in and what's out.
Yes. I'm looking at my notes.
That's the one I emailed out.
Thank you, Liz. So Henry, where would you like to go next?
I just found the map. That's a good question. I mean, has everybody still got the map and those 9 components that I sent out? Okay.
Yes.
My thoughts on this was get some discussion going, and then if we can break down into groups of 2 and 3 and hit like land use and housing and chip away at it like that. Anybody have any thoughts on this?
Henry, throughout my career, I've been involved in a number of road mapping exercises. The most recent one is a 270 or 280 item on research needed for the health and safety of miners. However, the significant part is what looks like chaos in the beginning can be shaped. And I think your idea about little work groups getting together and considering the issues, writing notes, and then bringing them back to the committee of the whole, one at a time, but in a workable series. So yes, I agree with your suggestion.
Okay.
Anybody want to read about the health and safety of miners? It's 70 pages long.
This is Mary Ann with a question. Could we start the approach as a whole group to get some idea of the best way? Because I would have no clue about where to begin. These are very enormous questions, every one of them. So to get from there to specifics, I'd like to kind of see how this process might work with the input of the whole group. Just my preference.
Okay.
Henry? May
Yes,
I
Lee.
share screen?
Sure.
I just have to figure out how to do it. Okay. I was once teaching a course for operators. In other words, the attendees were commercial operators. And I started flipping through my slides, and one of them raised his hands and he said, "Could you slow down? You're making me sick." And so I'm going to try and slow down just a little bit. The red are the annotations from Andrew Vorse. The blue-black is what we submitted. I'm sorry, no. It's the basic guidelines coming from the state. So Mary Ann, I'll take them one at a time. Henry, if you'll permit.
Yep. Go ahead, Lee.
Land use plan. I'll let you read the top part. Population density and building intensity. So one of his questions is, should we rezone everything that's R1 into other districts, ROH, R5, or R5L? The 5 stands for 5,000 square feet, which is the lot size in residential old historic. And by the way, there are several experts on board, realtors and such who've lived with this. And if I make a mistake, please chime in. Now, there are several large parcels, as he says, the west end of Main Street, North Liberty Street. I'm not talking about parks, I'm talking about privately owned. And so one of our considerations, folks, is, do we recommend that they remain zoned in the 5,000 lot size? And is there scope for affordable housing in our district? ROH district standards may be an issue. Housing, I just mentioned affordable housing. Should the downtown area allow tertiary dwellings? Duplexes allowed in R1. If we rezone, we may be changing that. I'm not sure what he meant by Academy Hill, whether it needs a separate zone, for example. Economic development, which is what I read to you a moment ago. Inns and guest houses, expanded or alterations. By the way, I made some notes to myself. Sorry, I should keep talking. Commercial uses in the area. Restaurants, encouragement for local shopping. Not that we would restore Robinson's Five and Dime, but when we consider economic development, we have to consider circulation and parking, whether or not we could even recommend daily shopping, family shopping, and so forth. We do have one supermarket in the downtown, although it's somewhere between the waterfront and the commercial downtown. The area connect and integrate, that connection and integration should be seamless. Cultural resources. Andrew doesn't mention the cultural district, but that incorporates a great deal of us. Open space and recreation. Well, sure, if we don't have the waterfront, we can't include the biggest element of all, but that's boating, maritime boating. We've got on Francis Street Beach, we've got kayaks. At Straight Wharf, we've got somebody with motorboats. Gentner takes people out on Endeavor. That's all recreation.
One thing that might affect our area would be boat storage.
Yes, hang on, Mary. I'm looking at the map and I realize it's upside down. Most of the boat storage is out by the airport.
I meant on individual properties, Lee. I don't know if there are.
Oh, no, I don't
restrictions.
think there are any rules.
Okay.
And yes, Town Wharf has a lot of places for boats. We have small kayaks and dinghies at the end of Washington Street. It's how the fishermen get out to their boats. So that, yes. Commercial boat storage, probably not. Services and facilities. He writes additional mitigation of flooding associated with sea level rise, and this is very important to Mary. Do we consider the attractiveness of bulkheads versus berms, ramps, etc. It's all in the recommended final plan. And then
So-
finally, circulation. I had a note here to myself. I did. It's important to Liz and me. Five Corners is part of the town area. And at one time, there was a recommendation for a huge rotary comprised of Atlantic, a portion of Sparks, Williams, and a portion of Pleasant, all to be made one way. And that may be something that we want to talk about as well. So Miriam, does this help?
This helps a lot. Can each of us have a copy of this?
Of course.
Okay, because you said these are Andrew's or the staff's considerations or what's on their mind.
I did, and I could not tell you whether it was Andrew or Leslie, but I'm fairly certain it was Andrew.
Another thing we might do would be to request speakers from town departments or commissions that might be able to provide more details on a specific question. Something that we might not have expertise in.
Miriam, Mary, that's a good idea. May I make a few notes? Otherwise, you won't have minutes.
I also thought that we were going to have someone on our work group from Andrew Vorse's staff. Is that not true?
I'm going to ask about that, Marianne. I have a meeting tomorrow with
Okay.
Andrew.
Because
and
it seems
Leslie.
that that person could answer a lot of questions as we move along.
I agree. When I worked on the use was decades ago. My recollection is there was someone there. Mike, I think was his name, and he I'm pretty sure. And I don't, because they would be able to say, look, that's feasible or that's not feasible.
Right.
Okay, I want to be able to see you folks, so we're going to stop sharing. And that's way up here. It's a little red button.
Okay, found
There
it.
we go.
There we go.
So Megan did message me saying that she was stepped away from the computer so that we have the plus account showing on the screen, but there isn't actually a person behind that at the moment, just so you know.
You're
Well,
talking-
I for one know almost nothing about zoning. I'm sure there are a lot of people here who know a lot about it. But that just seems like a huge area that I for one would have to get up to speed about.
So do we have any members of the committee that would volunteer to give a brief treatise on the zoning districts that are in our mapped area? Do we volunteer Marcia since she's not here?
I've worked over the years with, most of these districts in my business, and, some of them are relatively new, so I
Well,
can't
it's
say that I'm
primarily,
up to speed. I think I could be more appropriate to answer questions that people have about it.
Marianne,
Yes.
I think
Potential
Nikki
historic,
could do
but
an
there's
excellent
one
job
too in this.
telling you what exists. But the thing that we
I'm
don't
more
know
than
about,
happy to try to get that overlay map.
okay, sorry, who was speaking?
It's Liz. I think she's on delay.
Allison.
No, Liz was talking, but I think it was delayed.
Oh, okay.
And Liz, are you still there? Ah, now I can see you moving.
So my reaction is that there are several people here who could talk about zoning. My interest would be, what are they thinking about in terms of proposed changes? When we first bought our house, we were in the residential commercial district. And over time, the town has been whittling away at RC and converting it either to a residential old historic or R5. And if there are other concerns or proposals, Andrew's comment about moving R1 into other districts, I'd like to know more about that too. Reactions?
No, I'm in the group that has no idea what R1 means, so I couldn't offer an opinion on whether it's good, bad, or indifferent.
Well, I
or
think
how
you
it
live in,
affects
I
us.
think you live in R1. It's 10,000 square feet.
But there are other things that go along with that square footage. In
Oh
terms-
my, yes. If one goes into the bylaws of the town of Nantucket, chapter 139, and then goes to the very end of it, actually, I think you have to click a button for the use chart. And it lays out every zone on the island. Minimum lot size, setbacks from front yard setback, side yard setback, backyard setback, and then allowed uses. For example, the big controversy over swimming pools, no longer an allowed use in the residential old historic. If you wanted to open a slaughterhouse, I think you might find it difficult to do so on Nantucket. But that would be a use as opposed to some of the other considerations. So it's all there, but I'd love to know what they're thinking about in terms of change.
I'd also
Lee.
like to understand whittling away, because if we're going through this exercise and this is for a long-term plan, why would there be any whittling away in interim time zones between planning?
I can put a little bit of an explanation on that. The original zoning, there was a lot of what's called RC, or residential commercial, which has very few restrictions on what you can do. And over the last, I guess, almost 50 years, as the island has grown in particular, the planning department has said that the RC doesn't give them very many tools for shaping how areas develop. And so they have paid attention to certain areas at certain times and said, well, if we're going to not be RC, what's the best fit for this area? So it's not a question of simply changing RC to something else. It's looking at each neighborhood or each street and saying, what are the uses that have developed already? What are the uses that we want to have in the future? What is the best zoning definition that's going to fit those or going to fit our goals for that area? So RC is being whittled away in the sense that every year the planning department proposes some properties to be changed from RC to something that they think is more appropriate. It isn't that that would happen, after or before we've done an area plan. It's just something that's been happening for decades at this point. However, if our area plan recommended that whatever properties are within the area go to whatever other zones, that would probably become a warrant article and all be done at once per the recommendation of the plan at some future date.
Thank you.
Looking at the map, we don't have that many different zones. We've got old historic, R1, R40, and whatever that is that's out by you, Mary Ann.
You mean along Westchester?
Yeah,
Isn't that R1?
no, it's a different color, so I'm guessing it's a different zone.
Oh.
But anyway, if we should be able to get the definitions of what is what. I'm not that familiar with it. As a matter of
Andrea,
fact.
you might ask Megan to send that zoning chart to us, or just maybe the zones that we already have, or the zones that might be appropriate for us to use. Obviously, there's some zones that don't have any effect on this, so it might help to have a cheat sheet of what's available and appropriate for this area.
I actually
Sorry,
saw one.
I have it at my hands. I'm traveling right now. It's easy to get that information, I think.
Henry, I'm going to be sending a bunch of stuff. Depending upon when we quit, it may be first thing tomorrow morning. But I think I can get a copy of the use chart and add that to the material that I'm sending out.
Good. Yeah, that's excellent, Lee.
Liz, sometimes it helps to turn off your video feed to let the audio grab whatever bandwidth you have available. So that might be something you want to try. The last message you had come through was a bit garbled.
Okay. Henry, are people willing to volunteer for one or more of the 7 areas? Area
That's-
1 is the summary, that's goals and policies, and area 9 is implementation. And so it's 2 through 8 that we're talking about.
Okay. Do I have any volunteers for land use? Or anything?
I'll volunteer for land use.
I'll opt in from the housing section.
Okay,
Okay,
I'll opt in for land use.
sorry, who's that?
Liz for land use.
Liz Almodovar?
Yeah.
Excellent choice.
anybody else?
I was just looking for the list. I'm happy to volunteer for something, but I kind of wanted to know what I was volunteering for.
Okay,
So my apologies.
Henry,
yeah,
circulation is going to be difficult.
I was thinking that I would volunteer for that. I might be able to work with the planning department easily.
Okay, Lee and Mary Longacre.
Yeah, Lee, you're on the Roads and Right of Way Committee, so I'm sure you'll have important insights.
Yeah. It's also not an easy one, and a little experience with the plus department may help. You're getting it in buckets full.
all right, anybody else?
So there's economic development, natural and cultural resources, open space and recreation, and services and facilities are things that nobody's mentioned yet, I believe.
Correct. However,
interested-
Mickey mentioned housing. And I think the whole issue of affordable housing is going to be critical for the whole island. And that includes the Nantucket town area. Is there anybody else that would like to help Mickey on that one?
I'm happy to
There's,
help.
it seems that there are so few of us, we may have to take more than one assignment.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I know that. We're just creating groups of 2. That means everybody will have at least 3.
I'd be willing to work on housing.
Is that Allison?
It was Liz, I think.
Okay. Economic development.
I'm happy to take that one or be
Okay.
part of the team for that one.
And I guess I'll work with Allison on that since I'm on MP and EDC, that lines up.
Thanks, Mary.
This is Mary Ann. I'd also like to be on open space and recreation.
Great. Marianne, there is a long overdue town plan on open space and recreation. Roads and Right of Way saw a planning document maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And we're told, hey, end of the summer, you'll be able to review this. I believe it's still in the hands of the consultants. But getting a hold of somebody who can talk about the draft would be useful for you.
And who
Mary-
is that?
Mary Longacre, do you have any more information about that consultant's plan?
So for open space, what I see on the town's website looks like a plan from 2014. That might be what you're referring to, Lee. I don't know if that's if that was being updated.
It was supposed to have been updated, yes.
There is a park and rec plan that has come out as a final just a few months ago, or earlier this year. So I can help you find that, Marianne, if that's helpful.
Great, thank you.
Who would like to work with Mary Ann on this?
I will.
Henry, okay, thank you. Natural and cultural resources.
We're gonna have to put Marcia on some of these.
We are. How about Marcia and Lee?
There we go.
I'm interested in natural cultural resources.
Okay,
as
you
well.
you certainly have it.
Liz?
I'll go somewhere else.
I mean, I'm happy to, but it, it's not a necessity.
No, that's fine.
Whatever you see fit.
Volunteers come before drafts.
So services and facilities, is that the only one we have left that doesn't have two people?
I'm checking.
Unfortunately, we can't double Marcia.
Are there two people on the open space?
Yes, okay.
Okay.
And then Reagan's not here too, so maybe
Oh, okay.
Reagan,
Good.
right?
All right, so Reagan and Marcia get services and facilities by virtue of not being present.
I'm happy to join that one. That seems a little naughty. Working
Okay,
in town.
And then perhaps Reagan and Marcia would like to pick one of their own categories to join the other people who volunteered.
okay, Henry and I only have one each.
Yeah, it's not going to be an even fit. Lee, since
No.
you're the secretary and Henry's the president, the two of you are already serving in roles that will be
Okay.
time consuming.
In my other road mapping experience, one or more of the officers would sit in with the working groups. And so when people get together, if you'd let me know, I can share it with Henry and Mary in case we're available.
Lee, could you do a quick rundown? Which of the groups don't already have you, me, or Henry on them?
Yes. Land use is Mary Ann and Liz Almodovar. Housing is Nikki Rowland and Liz Almodovar. Economic development is Allison and you, Mary Longacre. Natural and cultural resources, Marcia Feder and Liz, you're on 3. Open space is Mary Ann and Henry. Services and facilities are Reagan and Marcia. And circulation is Lee and Mary Longacre. Why don't, Liz, if you want to be on 3, you're welcome. Otherwise, if you want to hand one over to me, I'd be happy to do that. I've got you down for land use, housing, and resources, natural and cultural resources.
Well, I'm happy to be wherever, and 2 is fine. Where would you need me more, I guess, would be my response
Oh,
to that.
that's fine. Everything else has got a minimum of 2. And as I say, we'll Henry and I and Mary will try and um, sit
I'm
behind the
really interested in the
listening post
natural
while
and
you're meeting.
I'm very much interested in natural and cultural resources. But if you feel the need for me to be in housing, being in the field of real estate, I understand that. So it's up.
Well, housing, the big issue on housing is going to be undeveloped space, of which there's a little
Little,
in the
so
downtown area. And
Okay.
the big one is affordable housing.
Right. Well, perhaps I'll shift over to cultural resources then, if that makes sense.
Sorry, Liz, could you repeat that?
Does it make sense for me to shift to natural and cultural resources? And not do housing?
Yes.
Okay.
Henry, we're going to volunteer somebody for a housing. What's Reagan's interests and background?
I don't know.
He does a lot of work with nonprofits that help children. But perhaps Marcia would be a good fit for housing.
Okay. And let's ask Reagan to, she's already on services and facilities. What do you think, Mary, would be a good a fit for her?
Well, I would rather that she pick one if we don't have a deficit that we need to fill. I don't think we can
Good point.
speak for her, you know.
Good
Yeah.
point.
I'm only on one group so far. If there's a need elsewhere, I could fill that too.
It might be also as we dig into the weeds that we
Well,
identify where we need more bodies.
Mickey's not speaking up, but you've got a long time history on accommodating the disabled. And where do you think that would fit best in this list of 7?
Services and facilities.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm going to tell Mickey an anecdote, and it'll quickly become apparent why. When we first moved here, Priscilla started to play golf, and she joined a stitching group. And all of the buddies that she met had just built or purchased their dream house. And today, they're all saying, my children don't want it. I can't afford it. It's too big for me. Priscilla, how did you get this lovely little dollhouse that you're living in? All right, folks. The reason he's grinning was Mickey was the architect. Henry, I'm going to try and send out minutes within 2 to 3 days.
That's
I'm
fine.
going to try and send out the attached material tomorrow. Once you get the minutes, read them over. They may not be as complete, Henry, as I do for the town association meetings, or for, in Mary's case, Mary Longacre, the roads and right-of-way group. But they should at least have all of these assignments. If I've got it right, let me know. And then let's try each subgroup to schedule a time to get together. And if you want to do it by Zoom, I can schedule that for you. Or Mary, have you got privileges on the town committee?
No, I don't. I have a private Zoom account. Lee, are you suggesting that these meetings need to be recorded and posted as official meetings, or are these more of just one-to-one get-togethers?
Well, since there are subcommittees that don't represent a quorum, we may want to ask Megan to check with the rule makers. I'm thinking that the only reason for me to schedule it is you get more than the 40 minutes that private citizens get.
I think that Zoom, if you have only 2 or maybe 3 participants, doesn't put that limit on. So it's only for larger groups. It might be
Well-
3 or more, that it has the 40-minute limit. 2 people can meet indefinitely.
Okay, let me check with Megan about what's the best way to proceed.
Because whenever we're using one of the town committee accounts, that means nobody else is using it. And so, with 7 groups trying to schedule, throughout the month, that might be a little difficult.
Good point. But we'll work out a way if people choose to use Zoom. If they just want to call each other, 2 people on a telephone, that'll work too. But then that means that Henry or I or Mary will not be able to join you.
There's also the possibility for in-person for those that are here on the island.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, let's leave it up to the individual groups, how they want to meet.
Okay. I think it's a good start.
Yeah, we'll use the town Zoom for our monthly meeting and we'll work it out.
And that's already scheduled, of course.
Yes. Yep. Megan had that all set up for us, so.
So I need to give an update to NP and EDC on Monday next week. So I plan to tell them that we have formed subcommittees and assigned participants to begin looking at the 7 different parts, not including the implementation and the goals part of the planning process. Is there anything else you'd like me to tell them?
Sorry, Mary.
Is there anything else you'd like me to tell the NP and EDC?
Well, obviously, the goals and policies will be part of our final report to NPEDC. It will not be the final published report because that will be up to any modification that they choose to put on it. I think most of you know, but if you don't, the town website has got a copy of the master plan. And it's also got copies of the 6 or 7 local area plans, some of which are quite brief. That may give us a model of what we want to do in terms of choice of words and length of the sections. I don't think we need to be constrained by some arbitrary length that would cause us to keep stuff out. But I think it's fairly clear they don't want us to be wordy. My big word for wordy is verbose.
So I would suggest that for each committee now that you're on, take a look at the master plan and read that section and see, how much of that applies to our area, what's different or unique about our area, where do we want to go into more specific detail that, then the master plan would encompass. And I look at that as a starting point to say, if this is what's intended for the entire island, what else do we need to add to that to make sure that our area gets the attention that it needs?
Okay. I've just made a note to myself to include those web addresses. I don't know whether you could hear it, but Lee likes to collect antique clocks. That's what was ringing in the background.
May I ask a question? Lee, the information that you shared with the bullet points in black and then in the red that came from either Andrew or Leslie, that would be something that would be attached and sent out so that we can sort of digest and process? Great.
And if you don't, and if you don't object, I will use yet a different color to add a few notes that I made to myself about issues that may have come up since Andrew put his stuff in. I'll do it in green.
That'd be great.
Sorry.
That'd be great. Other question I had is, are people within our subgroups in terms of contacting, we'll just email each other and figure it out from there and
Sure.
exchange phone numbers and such, right?
Henry, do we have a master list of members?
No, but I can make one up.
Would you please and send it to everybody?
Sure.
How do people feel about including their phone numbers on that list? It would be convenient if we all had
Yes.
each other's phone numbers.
Oh,
Definitely.
sure.
Fine. No problem.
All right. If everybody wants to send me the contact information, then I'll put it out.
So I want to caution everyone that we should not create email discussions. Discussions regarding the plan should be kept within the confines of the public meetings. As Lee pointed out, the subcommittees will not have a quorum. The danger is that a discussion starts with one or two people and then gets added onto by other people and forwarded around. And then all of a sudden you have a discussion with 5 participants and you violated open meeting law. So just noting to everyone that be careful about email chains with topics of discussion.
And to add to Mary's very, very sage comment, we may not have debates and discussions by email. We have to do it in a scheduled meeting. However, going back and forth amongst 2 or 3 people is still a workable way. If there's something that a subgroup wants the entire group to discuss, send it to Henry as a desired agenda item for our next full meeting.
If within a work group, a subgroup, there's a question about a direction, is it something that, are we able to reach out to Henry and say, look, we're looking for a little guidance here? Is that acceptable if there was a specific question?
I'm sure it is.
It's acceptable.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Okay.
what everybody is sort of grappling with is that our work group has been authorized by the town. And unlike the Civic League area associations, we're now up to 25. Unlike those which are civic groups, we are constrained by the open meeting law. All right. Henry, anything else on your agenda?
Well, I was going to ask, when I do the agenda up, do you all want copies or do you just want to go to the website?
Copies, please.
Okay.
Send it to me and I'll send it out to the list. I'll make a list serve.
Okay, I can do that. Has anybody else got anything?
Henry, do you want to invite a speaker to our next monthly meeting?
Sure, why not? Any suggestions?
Yes.
Uh,
Leslie Snell on zoning.
Okay. I will reach out to.
Unless somebody's got another idea.
I think that's a great suggestion.
Okay. Anything else? Good. I have 4:06 and let's
No,
get out of
you
here.
changed your clock too soon. It's 5:06.
5:06. What did I say?
Sunday. Everybody remembers that daylight savings ends Saturday night.
Right. Okay. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Yeah.
Do I need a second?
Yes.
Oh, you're at the end of your agenda.
Okay, let's get out of here. Thank you,
Thank you
everyone.
all.
All right, so long.
Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome.